Welcome to 1 Minute Commanders, a new series where I discuss each commander in a set for around 60 seconds. The idea here is simple. I take each new legend and walk through how I'd actually build it. The core strategy, the cards that carry it, and any fun restrictions you can do with the deck. No deep dives, no padding, just a clear starting point for every commander. Today we're looking at the mono black options from the base Marvel Superhero set. And black tends to reward you for thinking a little more carefully than the rest, so there's a lot here worth unpacking. Commander Sanctum is the home for commander players who want to build smarter, play harder, and actually understand why a card is good, not just that it looks cool. If you're new here, drop a like and subscribe. We live and breathe the 99 on this channel. With that out of the way, let's dive into the commander list. Arnim will likely best work in either a self-mill or aristocrat style shell, with a heavy focus on untap effects. Thankfully, Arnim requires only 2 creature cards in the graveyard to activate his ability, so this shouldn't be too difficult to do in most situations. Where Arnim will really shine, however, is when paired with untap effects that allow you to untap and reactivate him over and over again. Unfortunately, black isn't as well known for this type of card, but thankfully there's some artifacts that can help us with this untap. Whether there are cards that will untap him once in a turn cycle, or ones that allow you to untap him more times with either mana or turn phases, we should be able to get a lot of gas out of Arnim to make a huge villain token army. Heartstone will be crucial in a deck like this, since Arnim's ability is pretty costly mana-wise, but other than that, pairing these types of cards with pump effects should be a solid strategy to help win you the game. The Baron benefits the most from a devotion style deck, caring about cards that have the most mana pips as possible. Thankfully, black is absolutely chock full of cards that are full of mana pips, making it a very easy strategy to work with the Baron. Honestly, I don't think there's any color that would fit better with the Baron's ability than black, making it truly a match made in heaven. As for what to cast for free from his ability, making a Reanimator style deck is probably going to be the best bet. Think about it this way. Add in some self-mill to get cards into the graveyard. Add a ton of cards that all have black mana pips for casting costs, plus some huge creature bombs, and just roll in the value. Sure, the Baron does have to attack to trigger this, but since he connives whenever you cast a black spell, it'll be very easy to make him big with some +1/+1 counters. Villains is the name of the game with Baron Strucker, and thankfully we'll have quite a few to choose from thanks to this set and a few previous ones. Remember that changelings count as villains, so it could be good to include a few of them alongside the normal villains. The cost reduction for changelings and villains can really come in handy, especially in cases where you may be able to cast a creature completely for free. Beyond this, capitalizing on the connive can be a good strategy. This can be achieved by either focusing on the +1/+1 counters that it gives, or even as a discard engine for reanimation targets. If you can connive discard large villain cards to then reanimate to the battlefield, you'll really be cooking with gas. I personally would make this Black Widow into the commander of a theft deck. That is, cards that let you cast or use your opponent's cards, whether it's from their library, their hand, their graveyard, or wherever else they may be. Black is one of the best colors at doing this, so there are a plethora of options to choose from to help enable this strategy. Some let you cast the cards for free, while others, like Black Widow herself, make you pay for them, so you want to make sure you have enough land ramp or mana doublers to be able to cast whatever it is you steal. There are even a number of payoff cards in black that reward you for casting other people's spells or controlling their permanents, giving you some nice utility effects as well. For Black Widow specifically, while she does have menace already, you'll probably want to include some more unblockable or pseudo-unblockable effects in the deck to make sure she can consistently hit an opponent. Crossbones will need some additional villain cards to work properly, but the real way to maximize his ability is going to be with blink or flicker effects. Now, since he's mono black, there aren't really many flicker effects that he has access to, other than the generic ones, but what black does have is return from death cards. These are the cards that you can cast in response to a creature dying to immediately get them back onto the battlefield, acting as a pseudo-flicker effect. These are especially perfect because a large number of them are instants, meaning you'll be able to easily get Crossbones trigger on more than just your turn. With the right number of villains and the right number of immediate reanimation effects, you'll have a Crossbones deck that'll easily take out your opponents. My strategy for Dr. Doom would be to focus heavily on artifact creatures, similar to the Doom bots that he makes naturally when entering. Not only does this give you a sizable combat army, it also makes sure he can easily and consistently have Indestructible, thanks to his second ability. Personally, I'd have some fun with this and make it specifically with Universes Beyond set artifact creatures. I'm talking Necrons, I'm talking Daleks, I'm talking Cybermen, things of that nature. Obviously, any artifact creatures would do the job, but I think keeping it in the realm of Universes Beyond sets would make it fun and unique, especially for a commander from the Marvel Universes Beyond set. Regardless, focusing on artifacts, creatures, tokens, or any combination of the three will make for a great starting point for any Dr. Doom deck. In line with her own creature type, Elektra works best as the head of a ninja deck. Ninja decks generally rely on two things: unblockable creatures and ninjas, aka creatures with ninjutsu. Sneak is a slightly worse version of ninjutsu, but the same principles apply. The goal with an Elektra deck will be to throw down some cheap unblockable creatures, or at the very least pseudo-unblockable with various abilities like Shadow or Fear, so you can then sneak her in or ninjutsu in other ninjas that will deal more damage when they hit. I should also preface that other sneak ninjas work as well. It doesn't have to be only ninjutsu ones, giving you a slightly larger card pool. A mono-black ninja typal deck focusing on ninjutsu and sneak is going to be the best way to go with Elektra. For Grim Reaper, Reanimator is going to be the best strategy to go with. Reaper's ability to reanimate something tapped and attacking is an extremely powerful ability, even if it does cost 4 mana to do. Combining it with a number of self-mill cards to get your large creatures into the graveyard is going to be the most efficient way to make sure you have good targets for his ability. Beyond this, using cards that can double up on the attack trigger will be a great way to maximize Reaper attacking. It is important to remember that copying the attack trigger does require you to pay the cost of 4 again to get the reanimation effect, but if you've got good enough reanimation targets in the graveyard, it'll be a small price to pay. Make sure to include some good evasion or indestructible effects for Grim Reaper too, as you want to make sure you can attack effectively to get his trigger without having to recast him after he dies from combat damage. Klaw will benefit most from being the head of a discard heavy deck, since he himself is a great way to force an opponent to discard. Cards are one of the most important resources in Magic, so being able to take them away from your opponents is a very good game plan. The deck will, obviously, need more supplemental discard effects to function properly, but thankfully that is what Black is pretty much the best at, so you'll have your pick of options. Because Black is so good at discarding, there are also a number of payoff cards that give you something whenever your opponents discard cards, whether that's some sort of resource, creature, or just straight up damage to the opponent doing the discard. There aren't many flicker effects that can be played in a Black deck, outside of Conjurer's Closet, but you can also supplement this with cards that will reanimate a creature as soon as it dies. That way, you can run Klaw into combat or otherwise sacrifice him to an effect to immediately have him come back onto the battlefield to re-trigger his discard ability. Madame Masque is going to be a powerful Aristocrats commander. Not only does she make her own creature tokens to sacrifice, it's actually pretty easy to do so in the color she's in. That's because Black has a lot of powerful card draw spells that make it easy to draw at least 2 cards a turn. And I don't just mean your turn, but every turn. That's what makes the Madame so powerful, is that she cares about drawing your second card on each turn, including your opponent's. There are plenty of Black instants that require you to sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards, and potentially get another effect, or even just cards that let you pay some life to draw. The ability for you to be making a villain creature token on each turn is relatively high, so pairing that with cards that give you benefits whenever you sacrifice something, or whenever a creature you control dies, or simply from the card draw itself, makes Madame Masque perfectly poised to be a great Aristocrat commander. Anytime you see a creature or card that says, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1, one card should come to mind. Maha, it's Feather's Knight. Needless to say, this is going to be the best card in any MODOK deck, since these two creatures effectively lock your opponents out from being able to have creatures on the board, at least until one of them is removed. Personally, how I would build a MODOK deck would be a life swapping deck. That is, one where you can swap players' life totals, or bring all players' life totals down to yours. Since MODOK has an ability that only costs life, you can activate it as many times as able to bring your life total down as close to 0 as possible. Then, you can cast one of the life swapping cards, effectively making it so that another player ends up with your life total, or everyone does. From there, it'll be an easy task to take that player out, or all of your opponents at once, especially given MODOK himself has lifelink to help buffer your own life total before doing so. Moonstone's ability relies on discarding cards, so it'll be important to lean into that. While you can go straight self-discard, it'd probably be best to focus more so on cards that make everyone discard. That way, you can enable your strategy while removing opponents of some of their resources. There are a number of cards that can benefit you from discarding outside of Moonstone, whether it's giving you things, affecting your opponent's creatures or life totals, or any combination of either. When looking at reoccurring discard engines, focus on the ones that give you some sort of benefit from the direct discard. That way, you can benefit both from it and Moonstone all at once. Finally, including cards that care about certain cards leaving your graveyard is extremely beneficial. Since Moonstone says that you can exile the discarded card from your graveyard, this will trigger any leaves the graveyard effects you may have, making it a great alternative strategy to utilize in the deck. Ronin's ability to transfer life into mana for equipment spells or abilities is far too good to pass up, so Ronin should definitely be made into an equipment heavy deck. What this deck looks like can vary wildly. You can always go the equipment based Voltron route, suiting up Ronin with all the equipment you have access to before killing your opponents with commander damage. The biggest downside to this strategy, however, is that Ronin doesn't have any natural evasion keywords, so he's not always the best target for a Voltron buildup. Still, a mono-black equipment-focused commander is rather unique, so this could definitely be a fun and challenging build for those adventurous enough to do it. Plus, there are some very fun and very good black equipment that can easily make up for Ronin's lack of natural keywords, especially when those equipment will effectively cost 2 less mana thanks to his ability. I like Swordsman as a Voltron commander, particularly thanks to his ability to auto-equip equipment onto himself. Villains, at least in the Marvel set, are extremely easy to make in black decks, either through the use of the villain token makers, or from actual creature cards with the villain subtype. So getting a villain, or multiple villains, to enter in a single turn will be a piece of cake. This lets you drop some powerful equipment with high equip costs, and not have to worry about actually paying the cost to get it onto Swordsman, freeing up your mana to let you either cast more equipment, or make some more villains to auto-equip further. Swordsman's biggest downside with the Voltron strategy is that he doesn't have any evasive keywords naturally, meaning you'll have to rely more so on the equipment you equip him with to make sure he can actually hit an opponent. Still, there are enough colorless equipment out there that can help facilitate this, and even some great black colored equipment that will help you close out a game with commander damage very quickly. Masters of Evil will likely be best when helmed at a villain typal deck. You could do some shenanigans to get them into your hand to discard and grab a plan, but honestly, there really aren't enough mono black plans in Magic to make this into an effective deck. Who knows, maybe in the future we'll get more plan cards that will make this more viable, but for now, I would say that this activated ability is much more of a limited ability than a commander one. Still, since black is chock full of villain cards, and cards that make villain tokens, the Undead Warchief style effect for villains is quite a big boost, turning your potential army of 2/1 menace villain tokens into 4/2s instead. That's something that can very easily and very quickly end the game, so focusing on villains, and especially villain token creators, seems like the best way to go with the Masters of Evil. Whiplash is going to be another equipment-based Voltron commander, and one that is particularly good if I do say so myself, thanks to the life drain he'll be doing to your opponents from simply attacking. Don't underestimate the life gain in a strategy like this, since it'll greatly help you mitigate one of Voltron's biggest downsides of the potential crackback from your opponents when focusing on a single creature. I'd say that Amulet of Vigor is a must-have for any Whiplash deck, since it'll negate the Enters Tapped effect. This isn't so much of a big deal at the start of a game, but you will absolutely be feeling the Enters Tapped effect when it's later in the game and everyone has a huge board of creatures to contend with. Beyond that, stuffing the deck with good equipment, maybe some tutor effects to let you get ones you need when you need them, and ways to either equip them for free or for a reduced cost will help round out the overall deck list. Yellowjacket is really more of a card that functions better in the 99 than as a commander, since his ability is so temporary. But if you wanted to make a commander deck with him at the helm, villains will again be the name of the game. You'll want to make sure you can have as many villains enter as possible on a single turn to really get the most out of Yellowjacket, either through the cards that can make villain tokens or some sort of combo. If you really wanted to go to the combo route, you could always do the Basalt Monolith Rings of Brighthearth Infinite Colorless mana combo, then pair it with Arnim Zola and Staff of Domination to infinitely activate and untap Arnim's ability, making you an infinite number of villain tokens to take someone out with commander damage from Yellowjacket. Beyond a rather janky combo like that, just playing as many villains, or changelings, as you possibly can is really the only route to take Yellowjacket, unfortunately.